Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are, FBA Draft 2021, the most exciting part of the offseason besides seeing all those wonderful contract signings come in. I'm your host of the night, Ryan Eastman. Joining me tonight to start will be Donovan Ritter. How you doing, Donovan?
Doing well. It's great to be here.
They haven't banned you yet after your Sports Den performances.
Apparently not, which I don't know.
And also joining me as well on the other side, far away from the squirrel, is Cedric O'Toole. How you doing, Cedric?
Oh, oh, son of a bitch. Oh, whoops. Son of a bitch. Oh, hold on. Oh, good evening, Ryan. Great to be here.
Great to see you too. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Well, here we are, the start of the career for a number of, at least 48 players. There are often a lot of undrafted free agents coming from the draft class, but tonight we will see the first 24 selected. As then tomorrow at 4 p.m., we will follow it up with round two, where the next 24 will be picked. And we have a long, long night ahead of us.
Well, indeed we do. It usually is a not long night at the FBA draft.
Especially night one.
It rarely goes quickly.
Well, I think we are going to kick it down to the floor. I see the elephant, Hugo Livingston, hobbling up to the podium, and I think he has an address tonight for everyone.
Good evening, esteemed guests, hopeful draftees, your families, staff and players, and all who are present this evening to the 2021 Furry Basketball Association Draft. I am Hugo Livingston III, and it is my pleasure to be welcoming you all this evening. The Furry Basketball Association is an organization which prides itself on loyalty and legacy, on good sportsmanship and having fun. I wish to impart to all of the draftees this evening a little bit of wisdom and perhaps an anecdote or two before we get started. Once upon a time, many, many years ago, there was a small elephant named Hugo. That elephant was curious and clever and smart and handsome and brave.
Hi, everyone. It's me, Rookie. I'm just taking a couple minutes to talk to you about what's going to happen tonight while the commissioner drones on and on about a story about a treehouse that he built sometime when he was a wee little elephant. Nothing important, I'm sure. So, once your team is on the clock, either myself or Fada is going to contact you on Discord. As team staff, you're expected to have a Discord account and be reachable there, but you all know that already. In the first round, each team is going to have 5 minutes to make their selection. In the second round, teams will have 3 minutes. Once you make your selection, please inform whichever commissioner has contacted you, again, probably me, at the start of your team's time. If a trade is made with the pick that is currently on the clock while that pick is happening, the clock will reset to 3 minutes in order to give the new pick holder time to make their selection. If you do not respond to the messages that we send to you, we're going to wait about 2 minutes before reaching out to your secondary contact for your pick. If neither of you is available to be reached by the time that your time ends, we will refer to your draft priority response. If you fail to submit one of these draft priority lists, or if everyone on that list is taken already, we're going to use our best judgment to determine what your team needs. Usually it's going to be the highest ranked individual currently on the board. There are a couple things to keep in mind during this broadcast for everyone listening, not just the team primary contacts. There is going to be a slight delay in the broadcast between what is happening live and also what you're hearing on YouTube. So because of this, there might be some instances where we contact you before your selection is showing up on screen. We understand this, and so we do allow some wiggle room in your response, so long as you respond to us right away after the initial message, just letting us know that you are there and you're making your selection. However, we're not going to wait indefinitely for you to make your pick. It is still supposed to be about 5 minutes per pick. We're trying to stay as close to that as possible so that we're all not here until 3 a.m. in the morning. Sorry for those of you tuning in from Britain. We understand that it's already midnight. So also, just as a kind of point of note, if you do have intentions to do any trades during this evening's procedures, please make sure that you are talking to the involved parties before the pick is on the clock. You don't want to be approaching a team just as your pick is coming up and trying to scramble to make a deal in that time. If you do have some draft night shenanigans planned, you want to be talking with those people now. Please get all of the details in ahead of time, and as soon as you know that the deal is finalized, please contact myself or Faded to let us know that something is up and something is going on. We want to make sure that we are armed with this information so that when the pick does come up, we'll have the correct graphics and the available resources to be able to make the draft go more smoothly. If you want, we're not going to announce the trade until the appropriate time, but having that information to us ahead of time is really going to help us in the long run. Finally, make sure that you check out the wiki for the list of all of the draftees. There were some draftees who were added relatively recently before the draft. Those can all be found on the wiki in the 2021 FBA Draft page. Well, that's it for me for now. Hopefully everyone is going to have fun tonight, and I'm looking forward to seeing where everyone's draftees end up. Thank you.
And so I said to my friend, no, we don't need to take a plane. I can just simply flap my ears, and we can get there from here. Yes, long story short, you could see an elephant fly. As I hope that all of you will fly and soar as you start your careers here at the Furry Basketball Association. And without further ado, I wish to open up the proceedings and start the clock. The Edmonton Totems have the first pick, followed by the Huntsville Mayors.
And with that, we are underway here. First pick, Edmonton Totems are on the clock. So, let's get started where we all prove to be absolute failures as predictive analysts. Who is Edmonton picking here, number one?
Well, Edmonton is in a really interesting situation. They hold the first and third overall picks. I'm mildly surprised they didn't try to trade one of those picks. But as it stands, they are in a really good position to get two very good players. Hopefully, two impact players. So, and obviously, this year's draft class, it is very big for power forward heavy. So I would suspect that due to that, well, you go with what's there's less of, and there's less good guards available, and Edmonton, well, they need a point guard and a center. So I'd say they pick Teresa first, and they pick the best big fur available who can play center third.
I mean, there are a lot of centers in this draft to start with, honestly.
There are. And that's pretty much what I had imagined they would do too. Their pick of Eric Kajani last year doesn't seem to have panned out for them the way they might have hoped.
But they gave him a shot to be the starter, but he's just not that good, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, given another chance to actually, quote unquote,
I mean,
earn a starting role.
It's the best chance he's had, and, well, I mean, you could do a lot worse, but you could do better, especially with this kind of draft capital you have tonight.
Yeah, I mean, question is, though, do you go with the number one rated center knowing that there is of one down there at 4. I mean, you have to imagine the GM is consulting with Bobby about whether or not he wants the athletic center in Xavier Clark, or does he want a bigger body in CC? But at the same time, again, you pointed out to the point guard role. The point guard is definitely a position they need some help with, and Teresa absolutely balled out at the combine, and you have to
Very
imagine.
impressive showing that, yes.
Any unexpected possible candidates we might see taken if it's not either Xavier or Teresa?
I really don't think you're looking. I don't see how it doesn't end up being one of those two. Those are the two roles that they most would be looking to fill. They have returning shooting guards and small forwards. I don't see them taking Hale Weber. And I don't see them dipping down to 6 to get a guard when Teresa's available. The long, weird shot I suppose I could throw out there is that they draft Jack Baker because he's a classmate of Zach Cooper, but I really don't think they're reaching down that far.
God, if they are, they might as well have just traded back.
Absolutely. So, no, I think
That
my money's on Teresa, but I wouldn't be surprised by Xavier either.
And I mean, considering they do have Dappermont, they could, in theory, go with a power forward here, but you have to imagine Dappermont's only 6'11". He's pretty much played power forward most of his career at times. Actually, I think the majority of this time is Totem. He has played at power forward. So when you have so many centers available in this class with the number 1 overall pick, you might as well pick a center, or again, even third pick. All the centers won't disappear by the third pick, so they could get the second or even third best center with no sweat off their back.
Yes, and that's why I think Coyote goes first, and then you take a center third.
But do you gamble on the fact that Coyote, in theory, with the second overall pick, Huntsville, they have Wendy Brown, Devin Kellendine. Do you see them taking Teresa with the second overall pick, considering they have 2 point guards on their team already?
Well, they have 2 point guards, but they're two aging point guards, if we're being completely honest. And
Wendy
again,
is such a question mark.
Well, they
again,
also
the rare commodity in the draft is point guards. So I feel you have to prioritize that. You're going to get a great big fur at free, no matter what happens. Point guards in this draft, rare commodity. You've got to go point guard first, I think.
And a playmaking point guard, no less.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean the other thing is, but Huntsville still, the fact that they need that center. The role is so needed on their team as well. I mean, yes, they took Tucker Iverson, but at the same time they have no power forward.
Well, yes. We'll get to Huntsville's pick when we get there, but yes, I mean, the fact that they took Tucker out last year, I wouldn't be surprised if they go power forward with pick 2. Just to have another, because I think Tucker Iverson is your center of the future, with Amina Baratovich retiring, and now you just need someone to pair with him in the post.
Mm-hmm. And I think I see the commissioner heading to the stage now.
Hello, everyone. For the number 1 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the Edmonton Totems have selected Xavier Clark, a center power forward Husky from Claiborne University. Congratulations to you, Xavier, on being the very first pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I shall return shortly when the Huntsville Mayors have confirmed their selection. Thank you.
Well. They ended up going center forward here. That is a little bit of a surprise, as at least in terms of what you guys are thinking. I'm not as shocked. I feel like they're going to gamble on the fact that Huntsville won't
Can
pick a
you
point
really
guard.
be? Can you really be shocked that they took the best available?
Yeah,
Yes,
the
that you
number
can.
one
You
pick.
can be shocked if they had two centers on their starting lineup already, but
This is not a terrible surprise. Obviously, they seem to be banking on the fact that Teresa will be available later, that Huntsville won't go point guard. I mean, hopefully they don't come to regret that if Huntsville decides.
to say screw it and pick a point guard.
Well, I mean, Devin Kellendine, Wendy Brown, bless them. Very good players for a long time in this league, but they're not getting any younger. They're not going to be your point guard of the future. They're just not. I'm sorry.
Yep.
And with Huntsville not making the playoffs last year, this is a team you have to look ahead if you're Chuck Mandeville. I think you have to be building towards the future, and I think that's where his headspace is, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
I mean,
pushing.
with him going after
Yeah.
Arthur Selby, Rookie of the Year a couple of years ago, and Lauren Fash, who had from that same draft class, and has big offers for those two out there. So he's definitely looking towards the future,
And
which he should be.
I see the commissioner heading to stage, but I don't have any word that the pick is in. Let's see what he has to say.
Oh,
Hello, everyone. We've had our first trade of the evening.
oh my goodness.
Huntsville has traded their second pick for Lorraine's first draft pick, which is going to be the 8th pick this evening, and Lorraine's first round pick for next year, and $5 million of this year's cap space. So instead of Huntsville being on the clock, is now Lorraine on the clock. We await your decision shortly. Thank you.
Oh, how the puzzle pieces have fallen out of the
Yeah.
box here for Edmonton. We were all looking at Huntsville, and we've seen a trade now.
I'm gonna be honest. I was not expecting a trade this early, and I wasn't expecting Huntsville and Lorraine to be trade partners.
Well, anything
not
that'll
see
get
that coming.
Huntsville caught cap space, given the offers that Chuck Mandeville is rumored to be putting on the table to entice those
suppose-
young new players.
I suppose that's what he's thinking, and yeah, I can't blame him for that because they're gonna need a little bit of cap flex. They're gonna need all the cap flexibility they can get, which won't be much if both of those players sign.
Well, I have to say, Lorraine paid a king's ransom. I mean, they only moved up 6 spots, gave up $5 million this year and next year's first-round pick, which, if Lorraine can't turn it around instantly, might be another lottery pick. So Huntsville may walk away with this trade next year, having 2 lottery picks essentially. Oh, but let me pull up my sheet. Okay, Lorraine. I feel like they've locked in a power forward. Mason Lowe, I'm kind of iffy on. He could be a starting center, but they're also trying to bring back Tyreek Kendricks,
Yes.
which brings in that guard question because I think Kyoto will be going here at number 2.
She just might be, and that would be a worst case scenario for Edmonton, I think.
Yep,
Because
which is why I was.
Then what do you do with that third pick?
You
where do
reach
you go
down
from there?
to maybe.
Nur
not
at
even
6.
sure. Yeah,
I
That
mean,
would be a
again,
next
not that
spot.
far down, but still, that's not a. The game plan has changed very suddenly for the Totems when they get to their third pick. And speaking of, I think I see the commissioner heading to stage now.
For the second pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the Lorraine Firestorm have selected Teresa Coyote, a point guard and shooting guard Coyote from
Cabo San Lucas, Baja California Sur, Mexico. Congratulations to you, Teresa, on being the second pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I shall return for the next pick when the Edmonton Totems are back on the clock and have confirmed their selection. Thank you very much.
So Lorraine with a big move to take, I would think, their point guard of the future.
I would hope so. I mean, they've made almost an all-in gambit here tonight for her because they're
Yeah.
giving up who arguably might be a lottery pick next year in order to get her now. That brings up a lot of questions about what Edmonton will do here now that they have the third overall pick. Are they comfortable taking Nur if they need a point guard, or are they going to possibly trade back and try and address the need in free agency?
Well, I mean, there's not a lot of great point guards available in free agency either. I mean, Jona Vastenhout is the one who leaps to my mind as the one you might want to go after. Other than that, I mean,
Beyond that, there
not
were
a lot
rumors that
there.
Tennessee might be looking to trade Aldridge, but within free agency itself, you don't have great options.
And trading back in the draft, I mean, they can, in theory, pick up. I mean, if they went far enough back, there's Rustlin at 10 or 11 possibly. So maybe they can pull a fleece like Huntsville did if there's someone really desperate. Okay, Kyle was off the board, but now you still have CC and Adam Coate up there. Worried about maybe, hey, they didn't think they were going to make it past the first two picks, but here they are at 3 still. Oh boy, the draft board already got thrown off by the second pick because of that trade. That trade really screwed everything up.
Yeah, hard to figure where things go from here.
Especially for Huntsville now moving back to 8. But I mean, we kind of talked about Edmonton literally a pick ago, so we kind of both agree guard is arguably their largest, maybe small forward because they don't have Takamoto locked in. I imagine there's not going to be a lot of competition for her in free agency.
No, and their contract offer was pretty generous for what I imagine is actually their sixth. Or they still got Baxter at small forward.
That's true. But if you have the second overall rated player and Weber available who plays small forward, power forward, maybe not the worst idea, but not the best idea maybe.
And it still leaves them with a gaping hole at point guard.
Lottery pick next year.
Doesn't do much for him this year.
I know, especially with Zach being in free agency then. Going into next year, they need to put up a good effort here today. And I think I see the commissioner heading to the stage with a pick in hand.
Hello. For the third pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the Edmonton Totems have selected Nur Iwata, a shooting guard, Drona Parva, from Pacific Islander University. Congratulations to you, Nur, on being the third pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I shall return for the next pick when the Arizona Whips have confirmed their selection. Thank you.
So they went with the combo guard Nur, not necessarily a shocker there given their desire. And I mean, it's not a...
I suppose you could do worse. I mean, it's not that far of a reach. I mean,
I was
we're
going to say,
talking
it's
about-
3 to 6. I mean, that's...
Yes.
Compared to
It's a
some
bit
reaches
early.
we've seen in this draft, not this draft, but like the draft as a whole, as a construct, we've seen some pretty far reaches down. 3
Yeah.
to 6 is not even top 5.
We've seen non-top 24s go top 10. So
Yes.
that's a thing that's happened. So no, this is hardly the biggest reach in the world, and it makes sense given their needs.
It really does. Yeah,
And
you
not
really
only
definitely
that,
need to put that role.
with this pick, the Edmonton Totems might be one of the youngest teams in the league with Zach at starter. I'm assuming Xavier's going to be a starter, and I'm assuming Nur's going to be a starter. So they're going to have 3 players who are under 2 years of experience as starters.
That was always the case ever since we saw the lottery go. They were likely going to be looking at a starting line. Very young players.
Yep, and let's transition, speaking of, over to the Arizona Whips, who going through a bit of a rebuild in terms of, I mean,
Big rebuild.
perspective always have been on a rebuild. However, moves have been made as they acquired Dennis Summers in a trade, uh, which honestly has set them up for at least 4 years of having a, well, assuming no over contract negotiations, 4 years of having a point guard lockdown. Their pick last year, Kyler Nari. Now they have a 4th overall pick. Who do they go with here?
Well, they've been putting out feelers to several centers, I think. I would not be surprised to see them pull in Hay Weber. Best on the board.
Well, that and the fact, I mean, I would be shocked if they did not try to bring back McCarthy. He has been a centerpiece for them, no pun intended, since 2015 when he was originally drafted. It's just they haven't had the pieces around him to really carry them anywhere.
They do have Jalen Rose, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him pull in a
He's been
power forward here.
he's struggled as a starter pretty much since his Dakota days.
So, yep, that's my call. I see him taking number 2.
And also,
Best on the board.
a note: our graphics team messed up. Lorraine was showing still as the pick for Awada. That was incorrect. Edmonton was the team. We will go yell at Jimmy shortly.
Dang it, Jimmy.
He owes us coffee. He better not be over there by the snack truck, because
I'm sorry, I screwed up.
Jimmy, go get us some coffee, please. Something.
Alright, you don't want hazelnut, right? You hate hazelnut.
I want hazelnut.
Okay. So hazelnut for the squirrel.
Yes. Yes, the squirrel
Hazelnut
likes
for
the nutty
everyone.
coffee. Are you commenting on something, Jimmy?
I'll get that coffee.
Good plan.
Anyways, Arizona. The
Right.
team that will be picking next. Even then, Evan Cross, you imagine they'd want to bring back. He had a pretty good second year. I know there might be some tension in the locker room. I know he's been a bit outspoken about their performance. I mean, it's very hard to be on a team struggling and not have good things to say. It's very easy to have only bad things to say.
But no, I would absolutely expect him to be looking at Hay Weber. It's
Well,
a
I mean,
solid pick.
If he's
Fills
gonna
the
fall,
need
if
that
he's
they
gonna fall to
have.
you at number 4, why not? I mean, obviously they still have the 2.
Yeah.
Maybe they go with the frog, the Amazon milk frog, Adam Coate, but I don't see them picking up CC. She's more of a pure center. They already have a pure center. They don't need a second pure center unless they really don't trust that McCarthy wants to stick around after their continuing performance issues.
Well, they are reaching out to Luther Kierkegaard as well, from what I understand.
Yeah, Luther is suddenly becoming a bit of a hot prospect in terms of the free agency game. I know a couple teams have reached out to him per my sources. Having
Good
been on,
centers are always something teams are looking for.
always, yes. And it's no surprise, and this draft I think really is going to throw a wrench into how teams look at the free agency market because of how many centers are available. Because all that availability means, hey, we can try and just get them in the draft. Why throw a ton of money at something that we don't really need? to waste it on. But I think I see the pick is in and the commissioner is heading to the stage.
For the number 4 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the Arizona Whips have selected Ju Chaehuan, a power forward, small forward, yellow-throated Martin from Claiborne University. Congratulations to you, Ju, on being the number 4 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I shall return when the next pick is in from the Texas Lone Stars, and they've confirmed their selection. After that, Queen's Pride is on the deck. Thank you.
Well, we had talked about a power forward, but we were not looking that far down with Weber still on the board for them to go and pick up Shawan. Bit of a surprise there, huh, Cedric?
Very much.
Your thoughts on it, Cedric? Uh-oh, I think Cedric's watching a squirrel right now.
Not me. No,
No,
but
he's
we'll.
watching, he's watching a tweet video.
I see. But
Hold
no,
on.
quite surprising. I mean,
Hold on.
Jew certainly came out of the combine as one of the most speedy and athletic centers, but still, that's
Forwards.
that's a deep pick.
Forwards.
Forwards. True.
Cedric, were you
Still.
having some mic issues?
Give me a second.
Well, we will go ahead and dive into the Texas Lone Stars, as they will be the next ones on the clock here. And looking at their roster, they have a few options as well.
Yeah.
I feel like this might be the place we see Weber get picked up, considering their small forward position was kind of that area that they struggled.
Yeah, that's certainly possible. I could also see him reaching and picking up CC if they feel like the center's the better bet for him. It's another position they're certainly looking for.
That also makes sense. I was looking at the fact that Furitu was a rookie last year, so having a bit of leeway in terms of giving him another year to develop, but not a bad idea to pick up either CC or Adam here at number 5. Definitely don't need a guard right now, considering the acquisition last year in the lottery of Bertie Lavoie Williams. The swing for definitely stepped up. Didn't win Rookie of the Year, but was a contender.
Absolutely.
And
And seems to be jiving well with Marcus Knight, which was practically the first requirement to be a shooting guard in Texas.
well, I mean, that's where Lavoie gets the benefit of being a more of a slashing kind of shooting guard. Knight's able to still play from the perimeter and have no, I'm not going to say no competition, but he is still the star from the perimeter, giving Williams more chance to drive to the paint and get to the basket with some easy assists coming in from the Otter. So it's a fair position to be in. They'll now be looking for a center. I agree. I kind of overlooked that thought there for a second because I also was paying attention to Ivy Robbins being a free agent and possibly them bringing them back.
No, I would still imagine that, given that they have an open hole at forward and they have the number 2 pick still available to them at, slot number 5, that they
I mean, they expected some centers to probably be here at this point. There were just so many of them. There was no way the first 5 picks were all going to be centers. So it's not a terrible idea to pick up the 4 here. And that's the question: do you pick between CC or Adam? CC's a little bit bigger in terms of being able to box out defenders, whereas Adam has more athleticism. And with a team with Lavoie Williams and Knight, and we have the Jumping Spider in free agency, who I imagine they'll bring back. This is a fairly athletic team.
It is. So it wouldn't be entirely surprising to see them go for Adam either.
Yeah, and it's just not a terrible idea to not forget about the fact that we have a number 2 rated player still on the board. Yeah, he's more of a power forward, which might be why he doesn't go here. Uh, let's see, I think his size kind of leads itself to that aggressive post play. It's not something, unless they don't consider going after the jumping spider and they want to pivot to another player, that would be my kind of leaning of why they might go with a power forward here. Hopefully they weren't counting on Shea Wan being here, because they got screwed by the reach from Arizona if they were. But I believe I see the pick has been handed off to the commissioner. No trade coming in. We will get to hear the 5th pick shortly.
For the number 5 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the Texas Lone Stars have selected Adam Cote, a center power forward, Amazon Milk Frog from Heritage River Riparian College. Congratulations to you, Adam, on being in the 5th pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I will return once the Queen's Pride have confirmed their selection. Thank you.
Well, they went athletic here of the 2 centers.
Which we were saying that fits. That fits the Texas Lone Stars play style, and I'm not surprised.
And now, the question that, looking at the roster, does no benefits for, who does the Queen Prides pick here at number 6?
Weber, because they need everything, and you just take the best available when you're looking for everything.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I mean, I could see them going Weber, but that they also, I mean, they also put out quite a few offers. Reportedly, put out quite a few offers in free agency to forwards. So I don't know if you take Weber and a couple of those players accept. I mean, that might create a logjam at the forward position.
You retract your
so-
offers this evening, I suppose, but I have a sneaking
maybe.
suspicion they didn't expect the number 2 pick to still be on the board when they were picking at number 6.
That might you might have a point there.
Well, at the same time, I mean, yeah,
He has slid a little.
a little bit. I
Let's
mean,
see.
not as bad as 2015 Derek Kim being ranked 1 and falling all the way to 11. I mean, that was a
He's done
slip.
well for himself, yeah.
I
He
mean,
really
just
should have gone number 1 that year.
he should have gone at least top 3, in my opinion.
He should have gone number 1.
It could have been Albany
Yeah,
Alpha.
Like Albany, what the hell were you doing that year? I don't know.
Now,
Like,
looking
I
at
don't. I don't even remember what happened to that the player they did pick first overall that year, and I have a pretty long memory, so I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting someone. That's pretty bad.
well, let's dive into Queens now. I mean, yeah, we do talk about the 5. In fact, they only have 1 player on their roster guarantee going into this next season. Do you think their selection here with Luther, he showed a lot of disgruntledness regarding the team's performance and his position on the team? Do they even maybe expect to even be able to bring him back, so they pick a center here?
Well, he's certainly, as we said earlier, become a hot commodity out in
Yes.
free agency. I don't
Yeah.
think they should count on him coming back. So maybe they do look at a center here. Maybe they look at CC.
CC, you have Kevon Oakley rated 7th.
Mm-hmm.
That wouldn't be a huge reach if you wanted to go, bigger. You want
Well, smaller at 6'9", I believe. Kevin Oakley, one of the smallest. Yeah, one of the smallest centers in the recent history. I mean, we go back all the way to 2015 with Sterling being 6'9". back when he was still a young polecat. He obviously finished his growth in the FBA, topped out at 6'11", but 6'9" has been a fairly small size compared to a lot of the rest of the starters, at least in terms of the FBA's history. Michael Porter for a while.
That's my bad not doing my research on that. I look at a bear and I think, well, I mean, maybe he's not tall, but he's kind of...
I mean, 6'9" is tall, let's be clear.
He's kind of broad from what I've seen. You know, he's kind of built like a Kevin Malka, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good comparison. Kevin Malko's not necessarily very tall, but he is definitely a power force.
A brick house.
Yeah.
You might say.
Well, that's why he's been Defensive Player of the Year. Obviously, being able to use his body to box out those bigger furs. They might have more height over him, but they're not bullying their way down low to the post against him.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, the other question, I guess, is point guard Tasya Fangetsu, and I have to imagine Cassia Lynchka's heading to retirement. 15 years in the league. How many more does the Snow Leopard have before calling it quits?
Yeah, I mean, even if you bring her back for a year or two, she's not the long-term solution at point guard any more than Wendy Brown is in Huntsville. Possibly even less. So, but I mean, well, who's the next point guard on the board there? NATO?
Russlin, yeah, would be the next 11, which is it
that
too
wouldn't
far
be a huge
down?
That wouldn't be a huge reach either, I suppose, if you really wanted to go point guard. But
I mean, they have. You know what? Any pick is fine as long as they're top 24. That's what I'm going to say. Queens
do
needs
need
everything.
When you need everything, you have lots of options, I feel like.
As long as you don't mate yourself in one, just don't mess up. And speaking of, I see the commissioner heading to the stage. The clock had just ran down, and I believe he has the pick. I believe the commissioner's messing with his mic. Oh, he's figured it out.
For the number 6 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the Queen's Pride have selected Kayomi Inari, point guard Kitsune from Sendai, Japan. Congratulations to you, Kayomi, on being the number 6 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I will return for the next pick when the San Jose Thrust have confirmed their selection. Thank you.
I'm going to backtrack just slightly and say that maybe I was being a little bit charitable when I said that a top 24 pick is not a mistake. Especially when Russlin's on the board. I find this a little...
Well,
Brother, sister team.
Arya Ralston. I mean, a lot of people, a couple pretty good guards.
But Kayomi is Kyler's sister. I guess he has a lot of pull on the team.
No, he's on Arizona Whips.
Oh no, that's right. I'm sorry, I'm mixing people up.
God, now where's your research
You're
coming?
You're mixing
I don't
teams
know.
up now, Don.
I'm mixing many things.
Hey,
let's continue.
Give me that hazelnut coffee. I need to make sure that you didn't get Jimmy to put something in there.
Jimmy put exactly what he should put in my coffee. Moving on.
Cream liqueur. I knew it.
You like the hazelnut with the
Evangeline's is what it's
Yes.
called. Excellent.
Go
Oh.
away, Jimmy.
I have a pint. I have a pint here, so I'm being completely transparent. I have a big pint of Guinness here.
Well, then I will
Oh yes,
return
that's
to my previous
because
statement
you
that
ask whenever you ask for coffee, you say skip the coffee, get me a Guinness.
Yes, exactly.
I
Get me a pint.
They hire anyone nowadays up here.
quite simply I have no idea what to make of that pick. But
We've seen reaches before. At least it was a top 24. I will give him that. I'm a little perplexed, I will say, but
I'm very perplexed.
I
mean, just considering the guards rated ahead of her, yeah, I can't say I saw this coming.
I certainly didn't. There was no reason to.
Well, you question maybe they could have traded back if this was what they wanted, and this is who impressed them most.
Yeah.
At 22, maybe you could have dropped back to 11 or 12 and picked up a little something extra. I mean, obviously, if Inari is an absolute bomb like Kyler, then they will show us up on this selection. They saw into the future where we did not. It's just a question of, okay, they more pressure is going to be put on Inari now to live up to these standards.
She did do pretty well in the Japanese league, from what I understand. I mean, there's a reason she is top 24. I mean,
Certainly, it's just
she's not a bad player, but yes, this
and
is
that's
a bigger
fair.
reach than I expected.
And I don't want to sound as though I am denigrating Miss Inari at all. She's a tremendous player. It's just surprising to take a lottery pick and reach that far down when there are other options.
Well, we've
look
spent a fair bit of the clock talking about the pick. Let's jump on over to San Jose.
San Jose.
I'm calling it CC. CC has to go here.
Well, you say that, but
You're right.
I'm not sure that. I'm not entirely sure they go center here, because from what I've heard, that they're interested in bringing Runica Falcom back and having her start at center. So I'm not sure you go CC here.
And they have
I'm
one
not
of the
really-
best power forwards in the league in Gakar, so I'm not sure if they go for Hay at that point. For Weber.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Here's
an
the thing.
interesting scenario because, well, you're in the lottery, but I mean, you look at San Jose's starting lineup. I mean, they seem to have people they kind of like.
Well, again, you got Gakar, who can technically play center. He's an absolute beast of a rebounder, but you almost want to pick a center here, I feel like. Just because of the fact that, Runica has been okay, but I don't know if she's the long-term solution, and I feel like they're happy with every other starter.
Do you risk alienating her if you pick a center here?
I feel like you're
mean-
moving on. There's a big bidding war going on for her in the background that I've heard about.
Oh,
And if you're
a
gonna
little
have
bit
the
of a bidding war.
if you're gonna have the fourth overall rated player fall to you at number 7, who happens to be a center, I'm sorry, I'm taking her. Yes, worst case scenario, Gakar, if Runica leaves, can slide over to center, and if they've picked Weber at number 2, which is also a good pick, and then you can have a sixth for possibly rotation with either Weber coming off the bench if Runica does come back. It's tough. CC or Weber have to go this pick, though, in my opinion.
Well, I would have thought that with several previous picks, and they didn't, so we'll see what they're thinking. These GMs make a lot more money than we do.
Face
No,
of the
they definitely do.
face of the FSPN sitting here. I know they hire anyone else, but hang on. Clock still starting to wind down. So pick a reach. Pick a reach that if it's not Weber or CC, who do they go with?
Hamish? Swingfur?
Oh god, that is a reach.
I don't know. I just don't know.
I mean, yeah. San Jose is tough to figure because they clearly seem like they want to bring Runica back. I mean, you've got Tavella and Gakar. Those are the 3 and the 4. Let's be honest about that. And they seem fairly happy with their platoon situation at guard. I don't know if they should be, but it seems like they are.
And I think to see the
So-
pick is in, we're going to jump
Maybe
on down to the
Swingfur-
stage.
Maybe Swingfur's not a bad way to go here. Good bench pace, maybe. I don't know.
For the number 7 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the San Jose Thrust have selected Kenneth Foster, small forward, short fin. What? I'm reading what it says on the card. This is the card you gave me.
Ouch. Ouch.
What are you talking about?
There seems to be some confusion about the name of the player.
I told you at the beginning of this that I didn't want any shenanigans. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, and esteemed guests present here today. For the number 7 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the San Jose Thrust have selected, apparently, Kenji Frost, a small forward, short fin mako shark from Roanoke University. Congratulations to you, Kenji, on being the number 7 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I shall return for the next pick after I roll some heads when the Huntsville Mayors have confirmed their selection. Thank you.
Oh, that's our commissioner. He loves his shenanigans so very much.
He also loves his blood pressure meds, which I really hope he took this morning.
Maybe you should take an extra dose. You might need it.
Well, they did end up picking a forward, even though more of a small forward, which is interesting, but I guess maybe they're going with a sixth for mindset. But again, a bit of a reach here, ranked number 15.
They went for Bishi Sparkles, apparently. I'm looking at him on the screen now. Good lord. Oh, man. I mean, I guess Ferris Tatsugami has been reading some anime, I guess.
I don't know. I think I heard something about this nickname at the Combine, but I really can't say for sure.
Well, at least the Shark is heading to a coastal team. You know, he's not getting drafted by, let's say, Dakota or Edmonton.
And well, and this, of course, is where Barnaby Jazz played for many years, so...
Oh, God, not another one.
Well, I'm not saying he's another Barnaby Jazz. I'm just saying...
If he shows up in heels to the dunk contest, I'm walking away.
No, all I'm saying is, look, they had success as with a Shark player as as a centerpiece of their team. So there's some history there. You know.
God. Well, anyways, Huntsville
That's
now.
all I'm saying.
Huntsville traded back from 2 to 8.
So do they take the number 2 pick that should have been theirs to begin with?
Or the number 4 pick that that was available to them.
I will be stunned if they do not take one of the top 5. But I've been stunned a lot tonight, so I'm fully expecting that's probably a thing which will happen at this point.
It certainly seems both Weber and Campione, for whatever reason, are sliding a bit. But...
Well, and it's not even the centers coming off the board. That is what is shocking me so much right now. Because, honestly, here we are at number 8. I expected 3 or 4 centers to be off the board after the 8th pick. We have only gotten through 2 so far. We've had 2 reaches, technically 3, a bit with Shawan, who I think was rated 10th overall, going at 4. A 6 difference, I'm going to call that a little bit of a reach, especially when Weber was still on the board. But Huntsville, what do you do here? You've been given 2 very good players to pick from.
Yeah.
And I swear, if they pick someone else, it's over.
I mean,
I
you
don't know
say
what-
that, but I think that there's a chance that they might.
What are you thinking?
Well, from what I've been hearing from my sources, Chuck Mandeville, when he interviewed with Tanner Hunt, he was very impressed by him, is what I'm hearing.
Okay, but even then, that's the 9th rated player. Whatever. That I won't have a stroke if that happens, except for the fact that Weber was still on the board. That's my problem. Both of them are very similar in terms of builds. It's not even like one of them's drastically different in terms of like one's a super athletic player. Both of them are tanks.
You're absolutely right, but sometimes, those those interviews at the combine, sometimes they do make a difference.
Buddy,
And from what I've heard, Tanner Hunt made a good impression on Chuck Mandeville.
I mean, that's fair, but it's I don't want to say Chuck's head might start rolling if they don't start producing, but I mean he has been given a gift here of a potential lottery pick next round, and now an opportunity to, I don't know, maybe get a top 5 player. And in fact, as the clock has wound down, I do see a card being handed over to the commissioner. Hopefully, no shenanigans for everyone's sake.
For the number 8 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the Huntsville Mariners have selected CC Campione, a center swan from Winchester. Congratulations to you, CC, on being the number 8 pick for this year's draft. I will return for the next pick when the Tennessee Moonshiners have confirmed their selection. Thank you.
So they do go center.
And said your sources have failed you.
My goodness.
Someone's not getting a Christmas card this year after they've failed you like that.
Yes.
I mean,
from the list as we speak.
to be fair, I don't think they expected CC to still be on the board. I don't think Huntsville, their board probably had her up there for posterity's sake when they were potentially picking number 2. And the fact that she was still there, I think, shocked everyone. It shocked me. Only 3 centers going in the top 8. I'm
not how I expected tonight to go, certainly.
No, not at all. But we dive on over to Tennessee. I'm sure we'll definitely have an opportunity to talk more about the Huntsville post-draft, how much they walked away, potentially the winners of the draft, considering they picked up a extra pick, cap space, I believe, as well, and still came away with a top 5 player at number 8.
Two top 5 players. I mean, it's hard.
Potentially
to
next year, top
that.
5 player. Potentially.
Or at least another lottery pick. I
Yeah.
mean, we'll see.
Unless, Teresa really carries Lorraine into the playoffs. I mean, they were close, so maybe she's what makes the difference for them. But
yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Here's the question for the Tennessee Moonshiners. Who do they go with now, considering their openings? I mean, yeah, they have Jean Ferdinand at point guard. They're fighting to bring back Selby. They've locked down Trice Peter Millark at least for another year. So they kind of, as we're getting outside the lottery, the players that are available may not always be a starter right away. They may be someone who plays behind on the 6th, 7th bench role to develop. Obviously, Weber's still on the board at number 2. You would hope would potentially come off here, considering Tennessee does need some bigs. I know they're in talks supposedly with certain Jackalope from Queens.
Yes, so they reportedly have made an offer to him. And of course, they still have Lee Barraquin, who I believe did they sign him last year? Was it?
It was a renegotiation, so they only have.
Yeah. So yeah, another year on that deal. But still, I mean, and I think he's fairly happy there from what I've heard.
Well, I mean, his sister's there, which I think is the main thing.
Well, it's his sister there, and it's close to home in fairly close to home in Louisiana.
I mean, Tennessee.
Yeah, but it's like you could drive down to Louisiana for a weekend if you want.
Bangor was talking about moving to Louisiana back in the day, but they've stuck around there. Speaking of Hal Dufresne, that's why they traded him to Tennessee, was because they were afraid they were going to lose him. But as far as I know, Hal Dufresne really hasn't received any.
No, it doesn't seem. I mean, if Tennessee brings him back, it doesn't seem like it'll be as the starter. They definitely have their eyes on Lufer.
Yeah,
and
and
and now you have well, yeah,
well,
you
you have the
have
second very best player, and I mean, you look outside of that, like who else is on the board? Yeah, you mentioned Tanner Hunt, uh, and potentially Kevin Oakley as a center would make sense here as well. So I can see either potentially going. Um, I would have to lean Weber though. It would not make sense if they took Tanner. It wouldn't make sense to pass up when Weber's on the board still. And in fact, I think I see the commissioner heading to stage now.
For the ninth pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, Tennessee Moonshiners have selected Hiela Weber, small forward, third steer from Truxhill College. Congratulations to you, Hiela, on being the number 9 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I shall return once the Las Vegas Wildcards have confirmed their selection. After that will be the Tallahassee Typhoons. Thank you.
Well, finally off the board. Not as big of a slide as we've seen in the past, but from second to ninth, a bit of a slide, especially considering players after him were taken in the for similar position. So Tennessee probably has to feel like they came away a winner here with a non-lottery pick, picking up a top 3 player.
yeah. This is yeah. I mean, they probably didn't see him sliding this far. So yeah, you have to feel really good about. Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you have to feel really good about this.
Well, I mean,
Lining up with Weber.
we consider back to the 15 draft where we saw Derek Kim slide to 11, and you have to imagine that there are two kinds of players that happens to and their reaction. They either take it badly and it negatively impacts their performance, or they use it as a motivating factor and they come into training camp ready to prove those 8 teams that passed them up wrong. And you have to hope that Weber is the latter, not the former. Obviously, Tennessee, a team that just barely made the playoffs, looking to improve, see if they can do so with this.
They definitely seem to have been stuck in at that eighth seed for the past couple of years. So yes, they're looking to, you know, yeah, they're definitely looking to improve from that.
Well, they've been making some changes. Obviously, they brought in Aldrich, John Ferdinand in last year's draft to replace Hank Sawyer. So they're making slow changes to the roster. And obviously, Selby.
Though Aldrich might be wanting to trade out of there, it sounds like. So
Maybe. I know there's some rumblings of maybe a Vaston Hoot acquisition, but either way, let's jump into Las Vegas, the team that surprised us this last season with significant moves in free agency as well as
I'll trade middle of the season for Coquinhos, who they traded again to Winnipeg this offseason.
yeah, the fact they picked him up and then ended up passing on him after they didn't win the championship. It's not what I expected from them. However, they acquired this pick because of that trade. And looking at the board, we still do have some of those centers. I mean, obviously Kevin Oakley, a bit undersized, but still would be a valuable player to pick up. And then the next center on the board is Jack Baker, the good boy. And after that, it's kind of a question of, okay, who do you really want to go with here?
Yes, well, yeah. Well, I mean, Las Vegas a is a little tough to figure. They don't. They obviously have a shooting guard spot open, but they're hoping they can lure Ash Van Sant out west, reportedly.
I mean, that would be a good acquisition for a team that has
I mean,
quite a few good players. I mean, obviously Umechi,
it,
everyone's kind of
it,
keeping an eye on how much longer does he have as a
yes.
top player.
Well, I mean, if last year was any indication, he still has some gas left in that tank, I think.
I think it's coffee he runs off of.
Yes. Yes, he still has. So he still has a fresh pot of coffee boiling, percolating.
I think he's moved on to French press, actually.
Yeah, well, well, you'd have to ask him to be sure. I mean, that's his area of expertise, the coffee.
I don't know. Donovan apparently knows
I
how
mean,
to
just
mix stuff with coffee as well.
Just give me some just give me a cup of Dunkin's or a pint of Guinness. I'm happy.
Oh,
I'm a
Lord.
simple man.
Well, looking at this, obviously they have Nikolai Volkov, and the fact that they got rid of their power forward of the Red Dragon, you have to wonder if maybe they saw someone in the draft that they're interested in. But
Well,
Tanner Hunt will be the next one.
I mean, they traded away Coquinhos, and they don't seem to be showing much interest in bringing Zaire Tipton back either. And she was their first round pick a few years ago. So, yeah, I could see them either going center or power forward here. I think that would make the most sense here for them.
Yeah, and you also have to consider, the sixth role of, at this point you're starting to look for players who can play significant minutes, but not necessarily will be an instant starter. And in fact, I think I see the commissioner is ready to take the stage.
For the 10th pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the Las Vegas Wildcards have selected Ariel Ralston, a guard spotted neck otter from Vanderbarn University. Congratulations to you, Ariel, on being the 10th pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I shall return once the Tallahassee Typhoons have confirmed their selection. Thank you.
Well, they went guard, which is not what we were necessarily leaning towards. However, that might be a backup pick in case they can't get Ash to come in.
Well, it could be a backup or it could be a bargaining chip because, well, I mean, both Vanderbarn alumni. So,
yeah, it's not the end of the world if they don't get Ash, as long as they have someone ready to slot in.
I mean, yes, that certainly seems to be what they're thinking. I mean, hey, maybe we can get them to join a fellow Vandy, as they call themselves, or worst case, Ralston slides into a starting role.
Yeah, it's an option definitely, and I mean looking at the board, the fact they didn't really reach down terribly far. 13th rated player, Ruslan would have maybe been my preference here, but considering he is more of a point guard, might have been why they went away towards Ralston.
Yes, I'd have to agree with that assessment. Yes.
Well, let's jump on over into the Tallahassee Typhoons, who are on the clock with the 11th overall pick. So, what are you seeing as a team need for them?
Tallahassee. I'm not sure we've heard much at all from Tallahassee this offseason.
Well, to be fair, they have their 5 starters pretty much locked up. Redmayne has 1 year left. Adge has 1 year as his rookie. Redfield, York, and Smoot all have 2 years left. They are kind of in a benefit of, hey, we got our players. How do we add depth right now?
Right. Yeah, so that definitely. So you might be thinking of looking depth here. So perhaps Moise as a swing for. You have a bit of, positional versatility there. And he's still on the board at the moment. He's slipped slightly out of the lottery. if we're going just by pure ranking,
Initial ranking, yeah. I mean,
initial ranking.
how you want to consider that in terms of they're at the 11th pick and we already had a 22nd ranked player picked, so some of the top 8 were going to have to slide a little bit when teams started reaching that far down.
Yes, it's true. We did see a couple reaches for sure.
Yeah. And, I mean, I'd have to go with you on that one. Moist would make sense, but also I could see them, if they needed to, they could take some center depth. Quintessa's getting kind of old at 14.
Well, she's not the starter either, though. I mean, it's Smoot at the moment.
Yeah, true, but again, in terms of like building up depth, if you have your backup center who's in her 14th, 15th season,
That's fair.
you don't want. She'll probably only ever play if
Oh.
she's injured
Hmm.
or the starter's injured, and if she's coming in and she gets injured,
Yeah.
you're SOL.
Mhm. That is true. So in that case, well, maybe you're looking at Oakley or possibly Jack Baker or Bernard Peace.
I mean, they're both great picks, honestly, and I would take this opportunity as a team that needs, not necessarily needs center depth, but could use center depth, just to take it when you have the opportunity. And speaking of, I think I see the commissioner heading to stage now.
For the 11th pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the Tallahassee Typhoons have selected Kevon Oakley, the center from Vanderbilt University. Congratulations to you, Kevon, on being the number 11 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I'll return for the next pick when the Albany Alphas have confirmed their selection. Thank you.
Not a bad way to go here at all. Best available, as you said, addresses center depth, even though Oakley a bit on the short side for a center, but as I've mentioned before, I mean he more than makes up. Yeah, he more than makes up for that with his build.
Yeah, and rocking the stylish pink jacket here tonight.
Yes.
Oh, well, I mean,
And it
there's
suits very well.
as I said, there's not a lot to talk about with this selection. Obviously, I don't see him being a starter for the team just immediately due to the fact that they have York and Smoot, both
No,
of them.
the starting lineup at the moment is solid.
Yeah,
pretty
it's locked up. I don't unless an injury were to take someone out.
Especially that front court. That front court is good. Redfield, York, Smoot. I like that front court.
So a good opportunity for Oakley to develop on the Tallahassee Typhoons to definitely learn.
And as you said, they needed some center depth, so they decided they want to address that, and Oakley was their choice here.
Yeah, and not only that, he gets to learn from Quintessa, who arguably is one of the tallest centers in the league.
Yes.
Maybe she
You
and
learn
veteran.
from Quintessa, and you learn from Rosalie Smoot too, and well, and
Yeah.
and she's well liked. She on the team. She's considered a leader.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
have a
I mean-
lot of opportunities to develop.
I mean, we've heard Cosby Sutters called Team Dad. Rosalie Smoot is kind of Team Mom.
Yeah, and I mean, let's dive on into the Albany Alphas, who we know for a fact that Narcissa, unless she changes her mind, has announced her plans to retire after this season. So,
Yes.
do they pick up a shooting guard here?
It's possible. However, well, I mean, well, it's possible they go that direction. I mean, they are reportedly one of the teams pursuing Arthur Selby as well.
Yeah,
So, that would be an odd situation, to be honest. I think, because well, I mean, I see, I mean, having Selby there while Narcissa is still there, a little bit, because then, well, then then you're possibly forcing Narcissa either to come off the bench as the 6 or play point guard, and I'm not sure point guard is the best fit for Narcissa. For Narcissa, uh, I mean, I mean, she's up. I mean, her record as a player speaks for herself. FBA champion, All-Star, one of the cornerstones of the Alpha's team during her time there.
But at the same time, even if it's outside of her comfort zone, if you're going to have Selby, who's arguably rocketing up towards an MVP level candidate, and having Terry O'Toole, with Callum being able to come off the bench, honestly, depth is where they want to be looking at. And looking at their team, yeah, they have Kivar for 1 more year, Cassius for 2. Their power forward center depth's a little weak.
And Varane is not getting any younger. I think he's in his 30s, I believe.
He's been in the league for 8 years, so yeah, he's hit 30-ish. I don't have his birth date offhand, but unless he came to the league late, he should be 30 to 28 years old.
Right. So.
I think we're about to get our answer as I see the commissioner heading to the stage.
For the 12th pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the Albany Alphas have selected Tanner Hunt, a forward guard spotted hyena from IFG Academy. Congratulations to Tanner on being the number 12 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I will return once the Williamsburg Minutemen have confirmed their selection. Thank you.
Well,
I mean, they did go along
I will
the
just say
lines.
this. I will just say this. I know of a certain young wolfhound who's going to be very happy with this pick.
And some very sad golden retrievers and Jack Baker not being selected here. The play center possibly for the Albany Alphas off the bench, but outside of Tanner Hunt, it would have been either Bernard Peace or Jack Baker, in my opinion, going, and they went with the best available, Tanner Hunt. That does leave Moise on the board.
Yes, and I wouldn't have been surprised if they'd gone swing for Ealer, just because, I mean, yes, you have Terry, who is a swing for, and I don't think they have a great primary backup for him either. So I wouldn't have be surprised if they had gone in that direction. But yeah, I mean, I can't fault this pick. And yes, I know, I know my son is going to be very happy about it.
Well, I know who I can
mean,
fault.
He's basically put Tanner in the buff squad already.
Well, I know who I can blame.
And I believe, in fact, he is in Albany at Cassius Watterson's sushi restaurant tonight with Tanner Hunt's family. So I imagine a lot of celebration over there right now. Yep. Much celebration.
Well, we're going to bring in a certain late polar bear, Mr. Marcus Baylor, joining us live.
Hey, what's going on, guys? How's it going?
Oh, Marcus, they've left me with the special clowns here tonight. We have a Cedric O'Toole over here drinking a pint of Guinness.
Oh,
look. At least I didn't try. At least look. Freaking Donovan was freaking slipping liquor into his coffee. At least I'm being transparent here.
I mean,
you have to at least give me that.
I mean, yeah, going straight to the point, just making it clear today what you're doing is admirable, I suppose.
Well,
but it is what it is.
let's
But yeah,
dive into this, though. I wanted your opinion, Marcus. Obviously, you missed out on the first two Edmonton picks with, I'm sure you got text from Bobby, but let's dive into Williamsburg. We're here at number 13, a team that has honestly stood the test of time with their roster. You have to wonder what additions they might be looking for here.
Everyone on
that's
Williamsburg.
really a good case. I mean, they have a couple of. Oh, sorry about that. I would have to say that it's been very interesting to see what Williamsburg is intending to do. I feel like they could be looking for a little bit of depth in the forward position. They do have Chantel going into free agency, but I won't be surprised they're going to aim to bring her back. I haven't really been able to check how it is going for offers for her as of late, but I'm pretty sure that Williamsburg will be all over her, try to make sure that she stays onto the roster. But any kind of depth in the forward position should be pretty good.
I'm going Rebecca. I feel like they continue the trend of picking the Williamsburg Minute women, and we see Rebecca come off the board here. We saw a bunch of reaches earlier already, and here at 13, jumping down the 20th ranked player would not be that shocking, but
Yeah,
If you're gonna see a reach, I think you would see it from Williamsburg because, well, as you said, they have stubbornly stuck to their veteran core for, God, I don't even know how long they've had their current starting lineup intact. It's been a while.
they've
they've
added
had them
to
for
it,
quite a good bit.
but it has
Yeah,
slowly
I
been
mean,
it's slow rotation.
Yeah, and they have gone a little bit younger over the past couple of years. I mean, sure, they still have Vera Letiera, who's been here for over a decade. I mean, she's been really rocking it ever since then. And of course, Michaela, taking over that starting position of shooting guard has really served them well. And Renee, ever since that signing, has worked well for those three positions alone, was just very well done for them. But I would not be surprised if they try and keep it going with Chantel here. So anything to probably keep that core going would be suffice. And considering the keeping the minute women trend, Rebecca would be a surprising choice. But if they were to go for Jack Baker, I wouldn't be surprised on that either.
Well, speaking of, the pick is in. Let's jump on over to the commissioner.
For the 13th pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the Williamsburg Minutemen have selected Jack Baker, a center power forward, Golden Labrador Retriever from Templeton University. Congratulations to you, Jack, on being the 13th pick of this 2021 FBA Draft. I shall turn for the next pick when the Alaska Arctics have confirmed their selection, followed by the Montana Howlers. Thank you.
Oh, what a good boy.
I mean, not a terrible selection if they're worried about Kendrick Kaminsky's long-term viability. I mean, we saw Rebecca McLeod retire, so they have some questions there.
Yeah, and they could go a little bit bigger here, I would assume, with
I mean,
the fact of this
6'10".
pick. Hey, I mean, it's bigger than what Chantel is at 6'8", so it might not be that big of a jump, but it gives them a little bit more size nonetheless.
Well, I mean, I think at his size, we're looking at him at center, to be honest, especially.
But Kendrick
considering
sliding down to power forward.
sliding down to power
that could be a
forward,
possibility.
or sliding down to the bench. I could see that too, to be honest.
I mean, Williamsburg is trying to use that flexibility here. They have plenty of flexibility at guard, so having that in the center/forward position wouldn't hurt either in this case.
Yeah, and this is interesting. I see the commissioner heading to the stage already, but there's not an envelope in his hand. Do we have a trade, perhaps?
Another trade. You missed the first. You missed the first one, Marcus. You missed all that excitement.
We do have another trade to announce here between the Bangor Tides and the Santa Ana Spectrum. Bangor Tides will receive Tyrese Vaughn on a 4-year, $68 million contract, and Santa Ana's 2021 first-round pick. Santa Ana, in return, will receive Bangor's 2021 first-round pick, Bangor's 2022 first-round pick, $3 million in the 2021-2022 salary cap, and $2 million in the 2022/2023 salary cap. I will return shortly once the Alaska Arctics have selected their pick. Thank you.
All right, so
Well.
well,
I would say
So
that's a pretty big trade as well.
man, trade announcement not the one I was expecting. I was half expecting Alaska traded their pick.
Well, this
But
is
still,
a
It
big
appeared,
one.
this, wow, huge deal. Sign and trade
That's
that
a major
sends
deal.
Tyrese Vaughn to Bangor. Wow.
Yeah,
So,
and I
so
remember the time
that'll
when,
that'll obviously make a bit of an impact on what Santa Ana decides to do with their draft pick later.
oh yeah, for sure. And considering the fact that Santa Ana was the team that made it over to the finals, so making a major shakeup to try and see if they can get over the hump, going trading away their star center for I believe it was like what 4 or 5 years now, and now seeing the fact that trading them over to Alaska,
And
it's just really shocking to me. I'm very
Bangor,
surprised
Bangor.
about this.
And
Oh,
they,
Bangor, excuse
Yeah,
me. Sorry
Alaska's
about
still on the clock. Alaska didn't do anything.
yeah, so,
that.
yeah, we've
But yeah,
we've kind of forgotten about Alaska here in the wake of all this.
yeah, for sure. I mean, just and what makes it even more surprising is the fact that like it didn't Biloxi win the championship, and this is a major change.
Bangor.
Well,
Bangor.
Bangor, my bad.
Marcus,
It's
you
been a
been
long night.
drinking?
Maybe.
Oh.
Oh my God, what is this night?
But yeah,
What is
it is.
nice?
But with the fact that Bangor making this major change, it's going to be very interesting how their front court's going to be.
We'll have to talk about them more when we get to them. But as last minute left on the
Yeah,
clock
for sure.
Alaska, any thoughts about who they might be going for? Obviously, they're gonna. I'd be shocked if they don't bring back Ogana Akayu and Hermione Akayu. So I have to wonder, what are they going to address here with their pick?
Yes, I mean,
I would have to say anything that has to do with depth. They do have plenty of open slots here. They can pretty much do anything they can to pretty much fill up whatever depth that they have left. And they would probably go best available, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, Moise is still on the
They
board
might.
at 8, so that wouldn't be the terrible idea to go with. I mean, if you're going to have a lottery level player fall to you, not the end of the world.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think I see the commissioner hang the stage, this time with a pick in hand.
For the number 14 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the Alaska Arctics have selected Hamish Moise, a guard forward coyote from Black Tundra University. Congratulations to you, Hamish, on being the number 14 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I shall return for the next pick when the Montana Howlers have confirmed their selection. Thank you.
Well, they did end up going best available, and they did. I'm not gonna say a huge depth lacking, because I assume they'll bring back Hermione Okayu. But after her, they are kind of lacking at the forward position.
I mean, I honestly like this pick here because, I mean, best case, you bring back the Okayu siblings, and Hamish Moise gets to learn from, well, he's a guard forward, so I assume that means he's primarily a shooting guard. So
Yeah.
he would get to learn from Otis Najak, 2013 draftee, has been in the league a while, has been with
Yep.
the Arctics a while. And, worst case, if Harmony leaves, I mean, he can play small forward for you, potentially.
Yep. And I would have to say, adding into the Otis Najak, it could be a potential replacement because Otis is, I
Yes.
wouldn't say he's reaching his peak at the moment since he's been here for quite a good bit, 8 years. And being able to have that, next fur up, as they say, trying to make sure that everything still goes into a well. And plus, Alaska has a pretty good, solid team going here, so I wouldn't be surprised if they keep that going.
Yes, Otis is still a fairly effective starter, but yes, I think that's that makes sense. Yeah, that's what they're looking. I would agree. That's where they're looking toward. That's what they're looking at with this pick. Resign the Jack for a few more years next year and develop Hamish to eventually replace him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible idea, especially if they do end up flopping on reacquiring the Rhinos to go ahead and pick up someone here who could possibly have the skill to be a starter right away. Now, let's jump into the Howlers. An interesting team picked up Rising had a Rising, obviously, step it up this last season. All-star, but the rest of the team hasn't been able to keep pace necessarily with the Red Wolf, and you have to have some questions about where they go from here. I mean, obviously they performed well enough they did not have a high pick, but
Hell, they came within. Was it it came down to a couple buzzer beaters by Kiara Hughes between them and the finals.
mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So Montana definitely seems to be a team on the rise again. Great postseason run last year, as you mentioned, ignited by the acquisition of Mike Rising. Rising, I mean,
has risen the team again.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
I-
he would have been. I'm not sure he would have been the choice for most improved last year for me, but up there, I think, in my opinion.
I would have to also add into this is the fact that it's going to be intriguing of what they could do considering that Ren Ennue is in free agency, and I'm sure they would love to bring him back, but it's going to be interesting to see if they wanted to pretty much make a safety pick here since
Well,
we do have Rosalind Neto as right now
Yeah.
the highest player to be picked right now that's available.
you say that, but I mean, I haven't heard much on an offer for Inoue on that front, and also, I believe they have like two pretty good guards on their bench who were rookies last year.
They have
So-
Tyreek Murphy and
Yes,
Leon
Tyreek
Cross
Murphy. Well, and
Guillaume. I mean,
yes,
they have
Guillaume
a couple
Portier, yes.
good guards on their bench.
So I would expect one of them to step up and take that starting point guard role. To be honest,
Yeah,
I-
it's good.
I
It's
do
a
not think they
possibility.
do. I do not think they go guard here. I mean,
Do you think
I
they go
look at
center
their
then?
lineup. No. I look at their lineup, and I think their weakest position on that starting lineup is power forward. I mean, yeah.
Well,
I can see.
who's available left power forward besides maybe Peace?
I mean,
Coates.
There could be Langston
Andy Roth
Coates.
is
Yeah,
still,
Langston
Andy
Coates as
Roth
well.
is still on the board.
Yeah, but
Andy
Roth is
still on the
smaller,
board.
more small forward. He's only 6'8" compared to the other two who are both 7-footers.
You can
I-
play power. You
I-
can
I
play
think
power forward at
this-
6'8".
Yeah,
You can
I
play
mean,
power
he
forward
could
at
be this. This could be a bit of a reach, but Huatari could be a possibility as well, being the 20th best player in this year's draft. But I would have to say that I wouldn't be too surprised if they want to go for Neto here, just to continue having that flexibility, because I think flexibility in the wing
I
is
don't.
so important in this league.
I don't think you go guard here. I think you go Roth here, and with the intent that he's going to replace your weakest starter, which at this point it's LaShawn Grandin. I mean, no offense to him. I mean, he's a very popular player on the team, their captain. But at that point, you got to look at what your weaknesses are, and he's their weakest starter.
Yep. And
I mean,
the
I
pick-
would say
I would say the pick is in. The commissioner's ready to take the stage.
For the 15th pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, Montana Howlers have selected Andy Roth, a forward red-tailed hawk from Oregon Anthro University. Congratulations to you, Andy, on being the number 15 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I will return for the next pick when the Baltimore Spirits have confirmed their selection. After that will be the Seattle Summit. Thank you.
Okay, just because you can look through space and time, Cedric, doesn't mean that you gotta do it.
Well, I mean, it's I mean, out of all the things that have happened tonight, I mean, we can hardly call me Nostradamus. All right, but I mean, I mean, obviously, I really like this pick, and yeah, I guess you could say I called it. So
Yeah,
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 I
you did.
called
You did.
I have some injury concerns. He is coming off a surgery to fix his ankle after a high ankle sprain that took him out the rest of his senior year. So you have to wonder, is he going to be capable of being a starter right away or not? Obviously, he sat out one of the events at the combine because of that concern of being outside in a potentially wet environment doing a max vert jump on an ankle that just had surgery.
Yeah, and oh man, and those foot injuries, I mean, big concern. I mean,
Yeah, they tend to be.
you think back a couple years ago to when Edmonton took Lawrence St. Martin, who was I think the outstanding player of the FCAA tournament that year. I mean, he hasn't been a very effective player at the pro level, in part because well, he's just hasn't been the same since.
Hmm.
I think it was also an ankle injury for him.
Yeah, but I will have to say that I think what I was going to see before the pick was made, that one of the big things that the Montana has to worry about is more so defensively on the bench side. And I would think that that would be a really good idea for him to pretty much pick up the slack in that regard.
I mean, at this point, they're building depth, and if they do believe that they need to find a replacement power forward that they can't find in free agency, doing so through the draft is a good idea, especially when they have so many guards already who might be vying for that starting role.
Yeah, it makes sense to look for that in the draft here because
Mm-hmm.
well they don't have a huge amount of cap space. I mean I mean yeah I mean I think well yeah Renstill's on the
Yeah.
last year of a pretty rich deal.
And she'll be
Rising
gone, I
and
think, after this. She has not
well we'll
produced what her
see
money's worth.
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how
Well
it goes.
she
But going from
I don't expect her to get a raise. That's fair. She's not
yeah,
getting any younger either. But yeah, I mean
mhm.
Rising and Reagan are making a decent chunk of change, so and of course you have some bench spots to fill, so you can't just go out
Yeah,
spending. And honestly, after getting as close as they did to the finals last year, you don't need to make a big splash
yeah. Yeah, well, and speaking of
in
teams
free
that are
agency.
a little bit tight on money, let's go ahead and like talk about for the next pick with the Baltimore
Yes.
Spirits, and they have a lot of slots to fill and not a lot of money on their hands. So it's gonna be very interesting to see what they're gonna do with this pick.
Well, especially at
Yeah.
the starting positions. I mean, you talk about, obviously, you have a lot of your cap tied up with Eric Toivonen and DuPont. So, what do you do here with this pick? Such a late pick.
I mean, you had a platoon situation at small forward last season. Um, it and then well, was it?
Well, shooting guard was more of the platoon where
Well,
you had
yes, but
Gary
also,
Elsinore, Jerome Swimmer, and Saphir Kelly all, and Naomi
but
King.
eventually it settled. Eventually, Safira settled into that starting role. I would have to
Yeah,
think he's their starting shooting guard at least this next season. So, but oh boy, small forward for them, rough. I mean, yeah, a big weakness. And you have Crosby Sutters, their starting power forward this season, not happy in Baltimore. Not happy with not the biggest fan of their head coach. So, and he has a couple offers reportedly in free agency. So he may be
mhm.
looking to move on. So, yeah, I think looking at the forward spots
I
makes
think they're
sense
going to
here.
go center forward. I mean, the big fur. You have
Yeah.
three available:
Uh,
Peace, Coates, and Rebecca.
Mm.
and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they go Peace here. Like, of course, being the best available big fur out of the group right now. And plus, even though the forward spot is very desperate at the moment, only the next closest one, the highest, would be an on the cusp player in Emily Jackson, not even a part of the top 24. So even though that we have seen on the cusp players do thrive here in this league from time to time, would you be willing to take that risk with all these players available, especially at the big fur position, considering how stacked it is this year? Which, by the way, I love. Just letting you all know.
I'm sure you do. I mean, well, I mean, you mentioned Jackson, and there's also I mean, you also have one swing for left on the board. Ptolemy Adams, I believe, Underwood alumni. So, I mean, keep an eye on that. As so, there's a note for you Underwood fans out there. Hello.
I said you have to go forward plus.
There's
I
a
mean,
nugget.
sure you can do a swing fur, but even that, I mean, Potomi is more of a guard than a forward, and I don't know
Fair.
what they're gonna acquire in free agency at those deep positions. You might as well go for most flexibility with a center power forward here, and
Yeah,
whether that be
and
Coates or
plus,
Some good
Rebecca.
ones left. I won't deny
yeah, there
that.
are still some solid ones because it's just like it's really going to be answered how they're able to fill up these slots with the best they can with such little cap space. Overall, considering the fact that a majority of the money is going to two players already, and it's just going to be interesting to see how they're going to replace Crosby if he does end up leaving Baltimore for another team. So really, this is going to be the big pick. Would be going for that big first slot.
Yeah, someone to
Happen
play
as the
or
clock has
play them
run
now.
out. I see the commissioner heading to stage.
For the 16th pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the Baltimore Spirits have selected Ruslan Nito, a guard, West Caucasian Tur from Cape Cod University. Congratulations to you, Ruslan, on being the 16th pick of this 2021 FBA Draft. We shall return for the next pick when the Seattle Summit have confirmed their selection. Thank you.
So they go best available here. Not as, I mean, not
And a guard,
necessarily
which
an area of need for them, but well, they surprised us last year when they took Safira early. I think it was the fourth pick.
Hey, I mean, honestly, I think it's you expect the unexpected when it comes to Baltimore, and them going guard here, continuing to stack up is not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's the worst thing in the world. Of course, there are other needs out there. They do need to figure out what kind of big fur depth they're gonna have this season. But I would say that they're gonna take a bang for the buck for having a deep guard roster to pretty much help them try and elevate this team.
A lot of
Which,
depth at guard, especially if they bring Naima King back, which is a bit of an if. But I mean, if they do, yeah, they're set at guard. I'll tell you what.
yeah, for sure.
yeah, they could be going for a small ball setup. Trying to bring back that Alaska three guard setup and have it so that maybe they move him to small forward potentially. But talk to me about Seattle, Marcus here.
Ooh, Seattle. Well, I mean, of course, Leon being pretty much the important player for Seattle. I wouldn't be too surprised if they try to get some more looking more focusing on the forward depth again. I mean, Connor McQuaid, he's not really the best option for them. So really trying to go for the big fur wouldn't be too surprising here. Trying to find a good partner for the big bear himself, DQ, wouldn't be too surprising. So the fact that Baltimore did pass on Peace, it could be a great opportunity for Seattle to snag Bernard.
Well, if they want to go big, Bernard definitely is where I think they go. If they want to go more athletic to play along with their pick from 2014 when they picked up Jake Turner, I think Coates is a good pick here. They've had success back in the day with a more athletic mindset of having let DQ be the big body down low in the post. And that's kind of, I don't want to say they struggle with athleticism. I mean, Leon's fairly athletic. Blake is fairly athletic. Wayne is fairly athletic. But you have a lot of size. And I don't know if adding another giant in the hippo is what they need, or if they want to go something a little bit more fleece and be able to get into the post where the other players might be clogging up the lane or not have an open lane to the basket. Well, that and backup. I mean, Zoe Wilds is a free agent, so going
Yeah.
guard here is also not a terrible idea, except for the fact that the two guards that are really three guards that are standing out are Rutterfield, Boyce, and Etios, the Blue Jay.
Yeah, and that's kind of really the kind of the big question here is to either go for adding more of that much needed depth, try and spread out the court a little bit more, but having to deal with a little bit less talented players in the get-go, or going for somebody who is, well, yes, it could clog up the paint just a little bit more, but having that ability to, well, one, having a more of a defensive presence, try to have that 1-2 punch again defensively, anyways, with DQ. All right, but with the risk having it still having a little bit more of on the slower side.
Yeah, I think I see the commissioner is ready to take the stage with the pick.
For the 17th pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, the Seattle Summit have selected Athios Lagoudakis. How do you say this? Lagoudakis.
Yes.
Thank you. Athios Lagoudakis, a guard Blue Jay from Messolongi, Greece. Congratulations to you, Athios, on being the number 17 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I shall return for the next pick when the Bangor Tides have confirmed their selection. Thank you.
Well, you said you wanted speed. You got speed.
That they did, but I mean, the bird is gonna uh, be the outlier on the court. You have to imagine, considering they have Blake and Leon, that this has to be a depth pick for that sixth for a role. I would be shocked if we see Atios managing to deseed one of the two, but at the same time, uh, he brings a different factor to Seattle that we don't see with the rest of the starters. So he might be a game changer at times, a change of pace for them.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that having that kind of player, especially trying to spread the ball out a little bit more, would be something to really have. Because as you know, this is a 3-point league nowadays, and having more of that would be a really great thing for Seattle, especially considering they have a lot of players that are more ground for pound in the paint.
I was supposed to say they don't have a 3-point shooter.
Yeah, they don't. So any kind of spreading is good.
Well, let's dive into Bangor, the team of the hour, the team that likes to do crazy trades. Is they have acquired a center. They do not need to acquire one through free agency. They have done a sign and trade, giving away next year's pick and acquiring this pick and moving back, giving SAS the pick in two, I think. Uh, they have acquired Tyrese Vaughn, so they have a center now. Assuming Desdemona Iverson stays as the starting power forward, assuming Randy Mackenbach stays at the starting small forward, assuming that Andrew McDonald Rainbow does become the starting point guard now that Lance is retired, that leaves that final spot of Ash Van Zant and the question of, are they going for him, or do they have someone in mind here, or is this a for depth pick?
That's going to be the big question because Ashburn Zen has really been a fantastic player for them last year.
Most
And
improved.
I would not be surprised if they decide to be like, we need to make sure to keep him on this team as much as possible. Though I wouldn't kind of rule out them going for another point guard since I mean Andrew did pretty all right seeing how with his development, but his defense could use a little bit more improvement from last year. I wouldn't be surprised they would decide to go for maybe another point guard to probably challenge him. That's more defensive savvy a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, they could possibly go for more depth at the end of the day, because considering the fact that they would give Andrew McDonough Rainbow more of a shot, considering how much money he got from free agency last year.
Yeah, and you have to assume with Peace on the board and a couple other centers available as well. That has been their depth question. I mean, obviously they had Cal Sang, Namkaki, uh, and Robert Passon on the team, but then after that, those are the only two real centers they had, and I believe both of them are free agents this year. So I really feel like Peace would be the one I'd go with for peace of mind going into the rest of the free agency. To at least know you have one center depth filled.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Plus, is the best available right now. It's not like that big of a steal, I would say, but it's certainly something that I would not be too surprised that going for that pick, continuing extending that depth, especially with a player like Tyrese Spawn, I would say that'd be a good solid way to kind of reshape your center depth.
Now, I'm going to just throw it out there because we're getting to that point, and the fact that we have not had it yet. Do we see someone not top 24 go here at 17? Or
I
18, sorry.
I mean, it's a possibility if they want to go for someone who's more of a pure forward in the depth position, since their forward depth is like not really the greatest either. But even then, I would say that I don't think it's really worth it. And I think going for someone who more of a big for to continue trying solidifying that core would be more sufficient for them.
Yeah, with the number of centers still available in the top 24, that's usually the position we see players uh, be the main choice, uh, just because this is such a deep draft in that position. There's no reason to not capitalize on it while you can, especially considering there might not be as many free agents as you would like. And I think the clock has struck zero, and the pick has been handed to the commissioner. Let's cut down to the stage.
For the 18th pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, Bangor Tide select Langston Coates, center forward giant squirrel from Edgerton University. Congratulations to you, Langston, on being the number 18 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I'll return once the Queen's Bride have confirmed their selection. Thank you.
Well, they did go depth in the end with another center pick. Uh, you have to imagine this is thinking forward in terms of maybe they don't trust new management, may not be as sold on the fish as prior management, so they might be just drafting for safety in the sense of, okay, we've picked up a backup at least for Tyrese, but he could eventually become a starter if Iverson doesn't develop as we want.
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, it's a pretty solid pick regarding because like they need depth in general, anyways. Considering if everything like sets up very right for them, if everybody ends up staying on the roster as their starting lineup with Andrew, Ash, Randolph, Desdemona, and Tia, well, not Tia, Tyrese in the starting five, and just having that good big for depth is always solid, especially when they need it defensively. But it is what it is. I think it's a pretty solid pick at the end of the day. It would be a little bit of a surprise considering that Peace is the higher pick of the two, but it's not that much of a difference. Like 14th and 16th best player, you could probably flip flop them at any point.
Yeah, it's a fair assessment to make, but Bangor, I mean, we're going to be talking surely after the draft about the trade on FSPN that predated this and led to this pick, but let's dive back into the Queens. You weren't here for their first pick. They had, as we mentioned back then, 1,001 options they could choose from, and they decided to reach down and pick Kimori Inari. Question is
Oh, well,
why they could have maybe hoped that she was still here at this point. We did see two guards go recently with Atios and Russlin, but maybe they could have picked a different player and still had the opportunity to pick her here.
yeah, I mean, well, I would have to say that maybe they saw something super special that, none of the scouts really saw. So they probably have something get a little bit of a different opinion compared to this year's top 24 rankings, which, that happens. It happens just about every year, to be honest with you. But it could be interesting to see what they can go with. I mean, really everything is on the table when it comes to the Queens, so I don't think you can be really mad with any kind of pick, to be honest. But since they did get a guard here, I would not be surprised if they decided to go for peace here, since this is, I would say, quite a big of a jump from 14 to 14 by play being picked up at 19. We have seen this before, and I wouldn't be surprised if that be the pick here.
I'm having some questions that we're
Questions
being
as
told that it's not
to
the Queens.
what?
I'm a little confused what our graphic is saying. Well, yes, okay, I'm being grammatically corrected here. We refer to them as the Queens, but yes, they're the Pride that are located in the city of Queens.
Oh my
So, I
goodness.
mean, I'm sorry, I'm being pedantic. I sitting here thinking Jimmy made another mistake about which team was on the clock. Uh, anyways, the Pride. I would be upset if they did pick another guard here. That'd be my only real gripe was if they picked up Celia Boyce or even reached into this non-top 24 to pick a guard. I would not be upset though if they wanted to reach for a pure forward, diving down Yagori or Tindua. Both solid performances at the combine. I mean, Yagori finished first overall amongst the forwards thanks to his athleticism and shooting ability. And Jackson also not a bad selection if they decide to reach. This is kind of getting to the point where non-top 24 is an acceptable. I say acceptable unless again they leave piece on the board and they really don't get any kind of center depth. And I mean I have to agree with you. I would pick the center here. It makes the most sense. They might not pick him if they're concerned that will alienate their Jackrabbit. They really probably want to bring back. Oh God, my brain, it's already starting to fry. Kierkegaard, that's the word I was looking for. Luther Kierkegaard would be who they'd want to bring back. So, I mean, I could see them maybe going towards forward just to avoid upsetting him.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, they have plenty of money, and money does talk.
Well, they also have plenty of spots to fill, and I think I see the commissioner going to the stage with that selection now to fill.
For the 19th pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, Queen's Pride have selected Joseph Wolf, guard Wolf from Fur Bay State. Congratulations to you, Joseph, on being the 19th pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I shall return once the Santa Ana Spectrums have confirmed their selection, followed by the Las Vegas Wildcards. Thank you.
Alrighty
Remember, you said
then.
there's no wrong pick here.
There is no pick technically,
Well,
but
so
it's certainly an interesting one for sure.
I was gonna say it was a non-top 24 pick, and they wanted someone probably more in the shooting guard role, which they've gone for. I I think Celia might have been the more obvious selection, and again, a player that they
Yeah,
might have. How much they trust their scouts, and if their scouts are really looking for kind of those. I don't want to say against the grain, but non-mainstream players to look at. Again, this isn't that much of a reach. He is a
yeah,
cusp player. He almost could have been a top 24 if
yeah,
not falling just short. So I'm not angry at the pick. It's just with Austin Wilson being last year, now reaching for Anari, and then picking a third guard, you have to wonder what their plan is
yeah,
elsewhere to fill the right bench.
and and to really go piggyback off of what you said about Celia Boyce, there's also Tyler Rutherfield as well, and Adams. Like you have plenty of guards that are still in the top 24, technically, for to really pick here. So it's really surprising that they decided to go for Joseph Wolf. I mean, like I said, it's not too terrible of a pick, but having a variety when it comes to the positions itself is also a big concern, considering they really don't have anybody in the other ones. Outside of well, I don't even think is Austin
Wilson's
even
the only one
let
they
me
have
check real
under
quick.
contract. So, and that was last
Yeah,
year's
and
selection,
And
a
Wilson's
guard.
also a guard. So so it's just like they really don't have anyone under contract that's a forward or a big fur or even a center. So it's pretty much a lot of questions here. I guess they're pretty much are very confident in bringing back a majority of their depth, yeah, especially Freddie Varnege and Kierkegaard. So it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to be able to bring them with quite a bit of money left.
Yeah, they have a lot of work left ahead of them in the free agency to build a team, and we'll have to see how they do. Um, Excited to see how they move forward with a potential opportunity for a massive rebuild. But let's dive into the Spectrums. The other participant in the crazy sign and trade, obviously, they had no desire to pursue a continuation of Tyrese Vaughn's contract. Certainly, his contract amount he would have desired might have been the reason why how expensive it would have been to try keeping him on the team. But now they have a giant gaping hole at center. And look at this. We have a giant hippo available on the board.
Yeah, so they could be going for a player that is very highly guard, top 15 pick there in piece. And plus to get an extra pick of that as well for next year. And that could possibly go any way. So this could be a huge win here for the Spectrums that they decide to go this, especially considering how much pieces dropped.
Yeah, and I mean, bringing in the hippo to fill the hole, even if they decide to pursue other possible options in free agency, they don't have to settle with a starter here. I think they'd be okay if they did pick Pierce and he ended up having to be the starter. But at the same time, they could still go out there and make an offer on a center like Tiatera, who is now, I'd assume, heading to a different team this
Oh
year.
my goodness.
And
That would be a pretty big
a funny
that
swap.
would be the story of the year.
Oh,
That'd be
that
one
would be
interesting way of
hilarious.
swapping, that's for sure.
Especially since it wasn't
But
involved in
I
the trade.
exactly, and I would have to say if Peace does get picked up here, that's going to be a lot of pressure considering that Santa Ana made it all the way to the finals last year. It's going
Yeah.
to be there's going to be a lot on the table for him. So if he does get picked here, be prepared to have a lot on your plate when it comes to shoes to fill when it comes to the Big Otter.
Happened. Speaking of, I do see the pick is in. Heading to the stage now, the commissioner.
For the 20 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, Santa Ana Spectrums have selected Bernard Peace, center forward hippopotamus from Cape Cod University. Congratulations to you, Bernard, on being the 20th pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. Next up is the Las Vegas Wildcards, followed by the Pittsburgh Keystones. Thank you.
Well, well, well. A normal pick.
One that I don't think is very surprising here considering the major trade. But as I said before, it's going to be a pretty big shoes to fill. Tyrese was a fantastic player for the Spectrums the past 5 years. Like I honestly, I thought he was going to be a Spectrum for life, in my opinion. But of course, with them not having too much money left and the demand that Tyrese was probably offering here, that just couldn't get it done. So they're pretty much willing to take a little bit of a risk going for another young player, but it's going to be a lot of pressures there since they are in championship contender mode.
Yeah, and they don't have. I mean, obviously, Legion Sung in free agency, see if they can bring him back, but the rest of their starters are only locked down for 2 more years. And after that, you have to imagine, are we going to start to see any declining in Aditya? Is Kiara Hughes going to continue to develop and demand more money? Seba's going to be, I think, at the 10-year point by that mark, or getting close to there. But that's the question for tomorrow. The question for today is, who does LVG pick with their second selection? Another team that was competing for a championship last year, fell just short to the Spectrums, and have already made some pretty big offseason moves, getting rid of their midseason acquisition of Kokinos and renegotiating Merriam Wallstein, even though they have offered a new contract supposedly at a lower value, likely trying to clear some cap space. And honestly, the big trade of Dennis Summers, moving on from him, which netted them that pick earlier in the draft at number 12, number 10, where they picked up Ralston. You have to imagine they go forward or center forward here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised. I mean, Las Vegas, as you could expect the unexpected from this team too. They've always been willing to try and shake things up when they feel like something didn't really work out for them. And I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to go for that route. I mean, Nikolai Volkov, obviously a really good player, but you are worried about his injury history throughout his time and making sure that we have some good solid depth for him, but also because of the fact that there is a huge gap there in the power forward position anyways. So I wouldn't be too surprised if they decide to go for a big fur here. Maybe Rebecca in this case, maybe well, not Adams, excuse me, Thomas. It could be some interesting selections at this point, but they could go completely out of left field and probably pick a guard that's not even on the cusp. Who knows? Like the wild cards are is certainly a wild card when it comes to drafts. They have done that quite often too, and trying to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, and I wouldn't, like you said, be shocked if they decide to make a random, not even random, but a pick that they like. Uh, Obviously, they're not even 100% sure if they're going to get Lindsey Morrison back, so they might pick another guard here just as some backup, fill out the depth. But you'd have to assume some kind of forward will be coming off the board if they aren't interested in re-signing Zayara Tipton now that they've gotten rid of Kokinos. And in fact, I do think the selection is in.
For the number 21 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, Las Vegas Wildcards have selected Yegori Burikov, a forward sable from East Lansing Polytech. Congratulations to Yegori on being the number 21 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I shall return once the Pittsburgh Keystones have confirmed their selection, followed by the Tennessee Moonshiners. Thank you.
Well. They did go non-top 24, but they did pick the number one rated rated forward from the combine, performance-wise at least.
I can't blame them for going for this kind of pick. It's certainly going to be interesting of where they're going to place him. With the fact that they do have they need a little bit of forward depth and having somebody to rock with Umechi for these next couple of years will be pretty interesting for them, considering the fact that they really want to go for that go big or go home type deal. So hopefully that'll work out for them.
It's not again, nothing terrible about the selection. We did pick forwards as our thought here, um, and it makes sense. Some questions, they had an opportunity to pick up someone from the top 24, but picking up someone from the cusp here is definitely not that much of a reach. We'll have to see how Yegori develops on the lineup. But switching on over to the Pittsburgh Keystones, who acquired this pick from the Biloxi Voodoo through some interesting trade, I'll have to say. They traded away two of their depth big furs in order to acquire this pick. I have to wonder what they were looking to acquire here after moving on from those two. And the two they moved on to were Waylon Stone and Lucas Oxtakina. I can't say that name. Marcus, I need you to butcher it. Oh no, I've lost Marcus too.
My bad. I'm sorry about that. Okay.
It's like, oh no, I've
Yeah.
lost everyone. I'm
No,
all
it's okay.
alone.
It's okay. I'm here. I'm here. I'm still here. I'm still here. But yeah, I think the Keystones are in a pretty interesting mix here, considering that I think that Kasper Kusick will is pretty much the only. I think he's the only guard available for the Keystones now, especially since they acquired from Edmonton. They were hoping that he could be that one push for the Keystones last year. Obviously, that wasn't the case. But I guess the big question is of whether or not they are willing to go ahead and try and shake up their guard depth a little bit, considering they have basically just about everybody in that depth, basically in free agency at this current moment. I wouldn't be too surprised they decide to go guard here with Celicia Bose being the best player available in this juncture, not too far off from of a drop, but still a good opportunity to try and snag one nonetheless.
Yeah, and I think Donovan Ritter is finally back after drinking his coffee liqueur.
Look, it was excellent.
Look,
Excellent.
an upper and a downer is not a good idea. But what's your take on
That's
the
what you think.
What's your take on the Pittsburgh Keystones here and who they might pick up after trading away two bigs? Do you think they're gonna acquire a top 24 here in like Rebecca or Condori?
I wouldn't be surprised. Given that that's where you've got either Celia Boyce if they want to go for a true guard, or you've got Rebecca as a big fur, and I I think that they're looking more for to fill the big fur spot, but we will see what
Well,
they decide to do with themselves.
I mean, they also have Garland and Tyrone Gale in free agency, who arguably they'd want to bring back. It's just a question of can they. So at the same time, I understand a safety pick here for a guard, and maybe even diving down into the cusp players, considering Gwen Haas and Ollie are down there. There are
Yeah,
a few guard options outside of Rutherfield and Celia.
there are. I'd be surprised when those are available. I mean, you're not looking at those as starters at this point in either case.
Nope. But I do see the pick is in. Let's jump down to the commissioner.
For the 22nd pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, Pittsburgh Keystones have selected Celia Boyce, guard common earwig from Border Bay Technical. Congratulations to Celia on being the number 22 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I'll return once the Tennessee Moonshiners have confirmed their selection. Thank you.
Well, they did go guard, and as you said, the best available, which was Celia Boyce. Not a terrible backup safety pick
No.
if they're worried about possibly not having uh, one of their two starters return from free agency. But let's dive into Tennessee, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what I think they're going to do. Tennessee, we saw, already made one selection this draft. They picked up.
They got lucky earlier
Uh,
this draft is what they did.
they did, with Weber falling all the way down to number 9. But here they are at 23, the second to last pick of the first round. And, they have their, I don't want to say pick of the litter because, I mean, 22 players have already been picked ahead of them. But for the most part, the reaches have not been coming through. We have ourselves only a couple cusp players being picked up, two specifically. So they pretty much have the 20 through 24th player, besides Onari, available to them, and the entirety of the second round. So if there was a player that they had their eye on in the second round, this would be the time to take them. I mean, maybe they have an eye on
Stood out
someone.
for them, yeah, in the combine, somebody whose stats in the combine didn't really match up with their expectations of them. Like we saw with Yagori
Hmm.
absolutely outperforming his ranking, at least in the combine performance tests.
Yeah, like I said, you have to assume that at this point, the fact that they were willing to trade and get into the top 24, that they have someone in mind. I mean, even if you look at the top 24 available,
Well, I don't think they're looking at Rebecca, considering they just were able to
they
draft
just
another
they
forward.
just drafted a power forward. They don't need another one.
So I assume that they're looking smaller for a guard. So I'm expecting we're going to see Tyler or Ptolemy pulled for this.
Yeah, unless they are looking for depth. I mean, I'm looking at their roster right now. Roenick is a free agent, so they don't have him as a backup anymore. And they have their rookie from last year, Turnberry, would be the only other one kind of supporting them, or supporting, I should say, Barraquin as backup for him. maybe potentially moving into the starting role if Weber doesn't work out as well as they hope. But like I said, you have to assume if there's bigs on the board, I go for them. So I see the Llama getting picked up here. Condori at center. I mean, yeah, Rebecca maybe not going for her, but the Llama definitely showed up in the combine game and surprised me game one actually with how well he performed.
Yeah. Though we also know that they've been courting Luther Kierkegaard pretty heavily, if the rumors are to be believed as far as free agency.
Yeah, and that can add into not wanting to possibly dissuade him, but and maybe gambling on hoping that he will be here. But I do see the pick is in. They did not need that long to figure it out. Let's jump down to the commissioner.
Sure.
For the 23rd pick of the 2021 FBA Draft, Tennessee Moonshiners have selected Ptolemy Adams, guard forward Mulgara from Underwood College. Congratulations to you, Ptolemy, on being the number 23 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. I shall return for the final pick once Texas has confirmed their selection. Thank you.
Well, you were right. They went for swing fur, but not terrible.
No, one of the best options still available on the board for them, and that's probably just a depth pick for them.
Yep. And Marcus, your thoughts on the last couple picks? Any surprises for you?
I wouldn't say there really is necessarily too many surprises here. I think Matilda Adams, of course, as I'm pretty sure everyone have said, that this was a pretty solid depth pick, trying to rely on bringing back Selby and I'm assuming Vandella as well, trying to get those two back and try not to waver from them too much. And considering that this is more of a late pick, you expect picks like this to be more so for bench purposes. But having somebody that could potentially replace Tyrese Peter if they decide to move on from them could be a solid choice. And really, I think it's a pretty solid one throughout.
Yep. And not a lot to say on it from my part, but let's talk about the last team on the board. The Texas Lone Stars. We talked about them earlier. They had the fifth overall pick. They picked up the Milk Frog Adam Cote. What do they do here at 24 to wrap up the first round? Oh, the silence is
Well,
deafening.
I mean, you feel like
Okay, well,
they're solid for starter guards. They've got Marcus, they've got Birdie.
yeah, I think that to be honest, like continuing on with their depth at the big for position would not be too surprising. Plus, it gives a little bit of spice here to try and get some competition going on those positions as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to go big for again with another top 24 in Rebecca Huatari, which obviously the difference of ranking is very vast in this case. But having somebody there could really be good for a nice good competition as well. And plus, just in case they aren't able to bring back Lucy from free agency, or if they decide to move on from them, they can probably go for probably a very young Ross here for Texas.
Yeah, I mean, I look at their center depth is always what I'm looking at right now, and there is none. Obviously, if Cote ends up being the starter over Faritu, okay, you move him back to the bench. What do you do outside of that? Like, there's nothing available on the bench to support if one gets injured or you don't feel confident in Faritu going forward. So I think they're going to pick up Condori or I disagree. I think they're going to go Rebecca. I think they're going to do back-to-back center picks in the draft. Obviously, 19 picks apart, but they need centers.
You got to build your depth somehow, and if the draft's the best way to do
Yeah,
it, then
yeah. I would say Huatari more so not just because of the fact that yeah, just throwing someone to the center depth is good as well, but also because of the flexibility. So no matter how they decide to go for it, it would be really good to have. They decided to see which position is best comparing for the two. So it would be interesting to see where they go if they go for pure forward, for pure center, excuse me, for Thomas. But I think Rebecca, just for flexibility purposes, is pretty solid as well.
Yep, and In fact, Texas didn't need that long to make their decision. They have the pick in. Let's jump on down for the last pick of the first round tonight.
For the final pick of the first round of the 2021 FBA Draft, Texas has selected Emily Jackson, forward Gray Wolf from Atlanta Technical University. Congratulations to you, Emily, on being the number 24 pick of the 2021 FBA Draft. And thank you to all of you who are here tonight. Congratulations to all of the individuals who were selected in this first round. And to those draftees who are hopeful, I tell you, keep that hope. Know that there is so much more to come tomorrow. I also invite you to now enjoy the dinner, and I look forward to seeing all of you bright and early tomorrow again. Thank you.
Well, they did reach into the cuss players to grab a forward. So definitely along that line of, hey, we need some more big furs.
I guess Emily must have stood out to them more than Rebecca.
I think Rebecca stood out plenty, just maybe not in all the right ways.
Not in a positive way.
Again, you commented earlier about needing to get along with Marcus Knight, and I don't know if that would have happened.
It's entirely
Yeah,
fair. Rebecca did have a bit of a reputation coming into the combine.
Yeah. So, in the end, they end up going with Emily Jackson, the final pick of the first round, and I'm sure she'll be counting her lucky stars as she is now going to be making 1.5 million more per year than every player picked after this point. But at the same time, she does go to the team that has the most. I don't want to say the most. Arizona was technically the one that needed the most, but Texas definitely has undergone a bit of a rebuild and is a work in progress. See how much she is able to contribute to that. But any final thoughts on her before we dive into a very quick overview of the tonight's draft?
No, I look forward to seeing how she performs, but I don't have anything specific beyond that.
Okay, well let's jump into then the final thoughts about tonight's draft before we wrap it up. Um, Obviously, my takeaway, we saw a bit of a reach with Inari being picked up in the lottery, despite being a lower pick. I think she was rated 22 overall. Uh, I can't imagine the amount of extra pressure that has now been placed on her. Obviously, I'm sure she's grateful to be selected that highly and be trusted that much. But there is going to be that looming shadow of expectation upon her. I'm
Yeah.
sure Tennessee is very, very happy about picking up Weber at 9. I don't think they at all expected Weber to be available at that point.
No, I suspect they're going to be going back and reconsidering some of their free agency offers in light of that. I'm sure they weren't expecting to be able to nab the number 2 player tonight.
Yeah, I have to wonder about that. I mean, the last time something like that happened was actually draft night 2017 when we were talking earlier about Arizona, the Dragon on their team. J. Rose, was rated the number 2 overall player and fell all the way to 8. And unfortunately, he did not have very much of a successful career so far to represent his original ranking. Kind of a misranking almost, and fell down a bit. Have to hope that Weber is not the same victim of, maybe the initial ranking was a little too high for them, but an opportunity to play with a chip on his shoulder and show up, like I said earlier, the 8 teams that passed him.
Absolutely.
Marcus, any thoughts before we kick it off?
Well, I think that one of the big things that I've previously talk about is just the trades itself on the first round. I mean, this has been the most active that we've seen quite a bit of a time here. I think the last time I could remember is like possibly maybe 2018, I believe. I think really just the big Seattle trade that we've seen a few years ago. I think seeing this much activity between the GMs, it's been a while since we've seen a lot of excitement here in the draft in that kind of sense. So just seeing so much things have changed, really a lot of the expectations of what we could expect. I mean, it just feels like one of those wild nights again here in Vegas.
Wild night
Kind
indeed.
of.
I,
Yeah,
I,
as I say, that's the best kind of night in Vegas.
well, I mean, any players that are still left in the building, please be mindful that even though you've been selected, uh, uh, don't do anything that might get you in trouble
The GMs are
in,
watching.
in celebration of your pick, because uh, not just the GMs are watching, but Hugo Livingston and Raymond Seaver are in the building and around. So you do not want them to be witnesses to your shenanigans before you even get a chance to play in the FBA. But yes, do celebrate. And for those of you who weren't picked tonight, don't fret. There's still 24 more picks to go. Sometimes the best opportunity is not being selected highest, but being selected in the best position for you. Many players have performed far beyond expectations that were not even drafted. Marcus Knight, the recently retired Lance Wildfire, both players who went undrafted, who arguably might be considered Hall of Famers by the time their name appears on the ballot. So, do not fret if you were not selected first round. There's so many more opportunities still to come. Any final thoughts, guys, before we head off tonight?
Well, just to kind of echo that, there's also the D League, and we shouldn't forget about the opportunity for the younger players who are still developing. If draft night doesn't work out for them, there is an opportunity there. I'm sure there will be representatives here tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm. Anything from you, Marcus?
I think the big thing here for me is just like for those who have been drafted, congrats. Please don't do anything crazy or insane that'll make them, second guess their selection that they have made so far in this draft night. And for those who have been picked, there's still a lot of opportunity left with the number of picks that are in the second round. Sure, you might not be able to be a little bit disappointed for those who expect you to be off the board round one. You still got plenty of options in round two. And of course, there's also the D League to show your stuff, or get picked up automatically after the draft because that's another great opportunity as well. So do not fret because there's plenty of opportunities to be able to show what you can do and prove some people wrong, saying that you do deserve that number one spot.
Yep. And that's it for us tonight. We will have a word from our sponsor before we go out, but I want to say I've been Ryan Eastman. Thank you both Cedric O'Toole, Donovan Ritter, and Marcus Baylor for joining me in the booth tonight, and we will see all of you for round 2 tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern. And now a word from our sponsor.
Hey guys, thank you all so much for joining us tonight for the first round of the FBA draft. We hope that you all enjoyed yourselves, and congrats to all 24 people who were selected this evening. I do want to make a couple of announcements before we end here. First off, all free agents can now accept offers. We already have a couple of emails in already. Some of you have not wasted any time whatsoever in accepting those offers. So we appreciate that, and we'll get to processing those as soon as we possibly can. You may not see an announcement about those until Monday, and we will process those as they come in terms of chronological order, if that matters for any reason. We also do want to say that we will be back tomorrow, Sunday the 10th on 10/10 at 4 p.m. Eastern to do the second round of the draft. So if your character wasn't selected in this first round, you've still got 24 more picks to go. Remember, the second round is a little quicker. We only got 3 minutes per round instead of per pick instead of 5 minutes. So it should be a pretty quick process, especially since once the top 24, top 30 have been picked, mostly people kind of know what they want beyond there. So once again, thank you all for tuning in this evening. I know it's we've tried to streamline this process a little bit for you guys, but it is still a long night. I think we hit our record for shortest first night draft ever at 2.5 hours tonight. So we appreciate you coming and staying and get those acceptances in, and we'll see you all tomorrow at 4 p.m. Thank you again to Big Zed, Faded, Kit, and Xenos for lending your voices to this fantastic project. And
And
we'll see you all
Rourke.
tomorrow.